Welcome to Bedtime Confessions. Welcome back to Bedtime Confessions. In today's video, I want to talk about how he is not the prize, you are. This video is all about recognizing your worth when it comes to dating. And when I say your worth, I mean that instead of chasing a guy that doesn't want you, please recognize who the hell you are. Also, I say guy, could be a girl, whoever you are, like who you're attracted to. But instead of chasing the person that you want, recognize the worth and let them go. And I know it's hard, especially when we're in that colored glasses phase where it's like, oh, they're everything you want. But that's the thing. You think that you want them, but you actually don't. And let me tell you why. So, this quote or like this phrase of he is not the prize, you are, is so important to remember when you're dating. And the reason why is because when you start developing a crush on a person, you admire them for who they are or who they show themselves to be to you, right? So they portray themselves a certain way that is attractive enough for you to develop a crush on them. And I bet you've heard this maybe online, but a crush is a lack of information. So basically, you see this person, you find them physically attractive, or maybe you know them on a very surface level, and you develop an attraction to them, right? But the thing is, like, this person is still a complete stranger to you because you have no idea who they are. You don't know their family, you don't know their childhood, you don't know their flaws, their qualities, their habits, you don't know their lifestyle, you don't know what they're insecure about, you don't know how they deal with conflict, you don't know how actually confident they are. There's so much that you don't know about, right? But that's why it's a crush, is because it's a very surface level liking of someone based on a perceived idea of who they are. You imagine them based on how they show themselves in the world, based on what the lifestyle you think they have, based on what hobbies they have. Like, you create this image of who they are based on the information that they've given you over time, and therefore you construct an idea and an image of that person. But the thing is, still in that early crush phase, you have no idea who they are. Literally no idea who they are. And it's very, very easy to start developing a highly inflated image of them. Let's say, for example, they play chess. Like, that's one of their hobbies, and they are like a chess avid player. They're very good at chess, and like they talk about chess a lot, whatever. And so you would perceive them as someone very intelligent, highly intelligent, because they play chess, you know? They know everything about chess, the strategy, everything. So then your mind is like, oh, they like chess, so then they must be very strategic, they must be very intelligent, they're kind of fit the old money vibe aesthetic. So you create that image based on that information that they're playing chess, right? So then depending on the information that you have, you might put them superior to you and creating an image of who that person is, and you might put them on that pedestal and feel like you're inferior to who they are because they have all those good qualities and their life seems so full and complete and satisfying and so happy and fulfilled, and then you have you, right? So then the second you put them on the pedestal, you put them as a prize. And then your brain is like, oh my gosh, so they're up here and I like them, or like I have a crush on them. And then your brain will kind of want that person, right? Like, you admire them, you kind of like envy them, you're like idolizing them, you're like, oh my gosh, this person's so amazing, so therefore I need to catch up to them and I need to secure them so that I can therefore be amazing, because if that person likes me back, that means I'm also amazing, right? So it's kind of like that distorted thinking of like, okay, so they're here, up here, I'm down here, And if I was to have them in my life, or if they were to like me back, then that means that I'm up there with them, right? You think that your perception of them is how everyone perceives them, right? So then if you perceive them a certain way at a certain status, then if you have them and people know that you have them, then you can feel like you're on the same like status, right? So then it's that feeling of like, oh, they're superior to me. And if I have them in my life, if I possess them, if I'm with them, therefore I'm as superior as they are, because if someone that great wants to be with me, then I must be as good as them, right? But then usually when that happens, when you start putting them as a prize and as like the on the pedestal, you start feeling inferior, right? And then you might think that you're trying to like reach that gap and trying to like present yourself as even more attractive to them. And so you kind of start shifting yourself and transforming yourself and who you are to kind of fit who they are and kind of like move closer to them in that regard. But the thing is, like, you're creating this imbalance of superiority and inferiority, right? So then you see them as the big prize that you're trying to get, and then you're trying to reach for that prize, but then they're getting further and further because you're not being authentic to yourself. You're not being genuine. You're losing so much of yourself just to match someone that you don't really know. And that's the tricky situation when it comes to dating, is because we lose our own value. We lose rationality when it comes to dating, especially in situationship. Like this really, really pretty much applies to all situationship, is when we lose track of our own value. And that's the problem, is we see them as the prize. We see them on the pedestal, and then we forget, like we throw out the window all of our own qualities and what makes us so unique and so fun and so beautiful. We just forget all of that in like a split second. We just think everything about them, but we don't think about our own worth. And that's where it gets toxic and tricky, because we basically don't recognize that we're also an amazing person and they would be lucky to have us as their partner or as their friend or whoever they are, because we're just so focused on matching their energy, their presence, because we want to have them. So in situations like these, we need to reset. We need to see them as a different person, someone that's very unique, that has amazing, great qualities, but see them for truly who they are. Don't try to picture the potential of who they could be. So list out just their qualities, what you like and admire in them, and then list out your own qualities and what you admire in yourself. Because then once you start seeing yourself as valuable as that person, you can recognize that they're not someone that's like should be idolized and put on pedestal, because then you should too, because you're as great as that other person. Right? So don't lose track of your own value because you like someone, because you are as valuable as that person. And this is another caveat that I want to add in this video. The caveat here is going to be mostly applied when it comes to situationships, because I don't have experience with relationships, so I can't give you advice on that. But in terms of situationships, or when, so this can be applied to any gender, but I'm going to talk in terms of like from a female to a male, right? So coming back to what I just said, is that we forget that we are as cool as they are, right? But the very important point I want to make here is that when you hang out with someone and you vibe and you match and this chemistry and everything, that all of that, all the good times and the good moments were not just coming from them, right? So for you to have had a good time means that both people had a good time, right? So you were vibing, you had chemistry, you had banter, you were laughing, blah, blah. But that's a two-way street. All that good energy, that good feeling wouldn't have happened if that person didn't enjoy that moment too, and if you didn't bring something to the table. That means that it's not just them providing you that feeling is like you were also a part of that interaction, right? So I think we lose sight of that a lot, where it's like, oh, but he made me feel that way, he made me laugh, he made me happy, I love our chemistry. But the thing is, like, our chemistry, that means that you were an active part in it. That means that you were bringing as much value in this interaction as he did, and that means that you were as valuable as he was in that interaction. And that means, like, yes, he's maybe an amazing guy, but you're also an amazing girl or an amazing person, right? And I think that we forget that a lot. To piggyback off of that point, I think that sometimes we forget that maybe in some situations you were the one who brought in more energy and more good vibes than the other person, and that good moment was just a reflection of how cool you are. Because sometimes we forget how entertaining we can be, how fun we can be, how funny we can be, and then we just attribute and credit it to just the dynamic or the hangout or that other person. But the thing is, you were also there. You were also cool and laughing, blah, blah, blah. But to piggyback on that point, sometimes we hold on to that person or someone that's not necessarily a good fit because we enjoyed who we were in that moment. That means that, let's say you go on a date with a guy or a girl or whoever you're dating, and you felt so, okay, from a female, like you felt so feminine. You felt like you were really in your element, you were charming, you were seductive, and you absolutely loved that energy that he brought out of you and that you brought out of yourself because of who that person was or the circumstances of that date and everything, right? So then after that date, you're like, you might attribute the feelings of like, oh my gosh, this night was amazing. It was so fun. I felt so feminine. I felt so charming, so seductive. I want to feel that feeling again. And here is where we might get it wrong, is that sometimes we attribute that feeling of like, oh my gosh, this night was amazing to the guy or that person you went on a date with. But that feeling was just because of who you were in that moment. And that just means that you want to feel how you felt in that moment, or you want to embody the person you were in that moment more. Like you identified with someone that was feminine, seductive, charming, and that night brought out those traits out of yourself, and you want to feel them even more, or you want to feel them again. It's not because you're going to see that guy again that he's going to bring out all those traits again. He might, right? But that means that you can create those same circumstances with someone else. And that means that he was not really the prize, or he's not the person that made you feel like that. You made yourself feel like that because you transformed in that moment based on those circumstances, and you brought out traits that you already possess out into the world, and that resulted in you feeling that way. And you feeling that good can be replicated with someone else. And it doesn't mean that he was the only one that could make you feel that way. And I think that's the biggest realization I had to make when it came to situationship, because it was like, oh my gosh, with this guy, I love our chemistry, I love our banter, I love our jokes, I love when we spend one-on-one time together. But the thing is, I soon realized that I could have that same amount of fun with someone else, whether it would be a friendship or a romantic potential. But then I realized, like, it was not really the guy. It was just like I could bring out those traits in other circumstances. I had those traits. He didn't give me those traits, right? I was the one who had those traits, and I was able to bring them out in other circumstances, and therefore he was not the one holding all of that. He's not the prize. I am. This is what I'm going to leave you with, is that you need to understand that you have so much worth, and that another person will bring out your qualities, will bring out your uniqueness. But you are the one holding all of that. You are the prize. You are the one that can make someone laugh, someone feel like magnetic, someone feel confident. Like, you are so valuable in who you are. And I think that once you begin to understand how much you bring to the table, and how valuable you are, how worthy you are, you will start to understand and start dating differently, because you won't see every interaction as something that you can take from them or someone to chase, but just as an interaction to be able to put forward your best self. Literally, you are the prize, and that's just the end of the story. There's just so much about you that so many people will absolutely love about you, and once you start acting genuine and authentic to who you truly are and stop coming from a sense of desperation, but instead coming from a space of where you truly love yourself and you see your worth, your life will change. Whether it's from work setting, whether it would be in love, relationships, friendships, in all areas of your life, once you start understanding how valuable you are and how worthy you are and how much of a prize you are, everything will shift, because you will come off as someone confident, that is sure of themselves, that is genuine, authentic, and that is a recipe for a very, very happy life, and a very confident life, and a very secure and ambitious life. Because once you start embodying the person that you are, you start going for more. So I'm going to leave you with that. You are the prize. He's not the prize. And please remember that. Anyways, I'll leave you at that. And I wish you a very good night. Sweet dreams. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.